Hello everyone and welcome to Fandemonium, where a bunch of nerds get together and just talk about the things they love and share them with you, the viewer. I'm your host, Storm, and with me we have Naki and newcomer, Rock. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
So today's topic are heroes. So, we love them, we cheer for them. There's a variety of archetypes that heroes come in, all shapes and sizes. But what I want to talk about is what makes a hero and what makes them really good. Like, explore the fun aspects of how some heroes can function. I should read my notes, but I don't want to. That's staying in the recording. So,
We're doing it live.
yeah. Before we begin, Naki, you wanted to touch on something first, right?
Yes, so there are two different types of, I wouldn't say heroes per se, but some of us in general, especially myself, are going to be discussing protagonists rather than heroes. So I'd at least like to explain the difference first and foremost. A protagonist is not necessarily a main character, but they are on the same side of the main character themselves. So whether they're technically on the good side or the bad side, as long as they are within the range or, I guess, group of the main character, they are considered a protagonist. While outright heroes, I guess an example would be All Might from My Hero Academia, they're always on the side of good, and they always have some sort of motive towards goodness. So, in general, the nature of this, I guess, podcast would be more so protagonists and heroes rather than exclusively heroes themselves.
Oh yeah, basically the people we cheer for, who are essentially, for lack of a better word, leading the show, I guess.
Yes. So I guess I'll start with my examples, or shall we go over what makes a good hero?
I'd say that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, we can talk about what makes a good hero, and in my opinion, a hero is someone whose actions always lean towards doing what's right for the right reasons. Sometimes they can be selfish, but ultimately, so long as they are doing what they do and to help people, I think that simple description constitutes a hero.
And it's not necessarily doing good just because you want to be good. You should have, or the character itself should have some sort of motive behind it.
Oh yeah. Like, if they do it just because it's the right thing, then that can work, but you need to... I've seen that fall apart very easily.
Oh, yes.
Like, if you want to do something good for selfish reasons and help people, like, the first example I can think of is Vaster Stampede. He's, like, ultimate law for good, just up there with Captain America. Like, he makes sure no one around him dies, even if the city's falling apart around him, even to his own personal detriments. Like, we see him, like, covered in scars, bits of his body are missing, but he will never shook from his idea that no one needs to die around him. He'll always go
And
out
I
his
like
way.
that
Yep.
I'm sorry, I actually like that a lot because it actually, in a way, kind of adds to his own character flaw. Because he puts himself in such a large amount of danger that it's just carved into his body.
Oh yeah, that's probably one of my favorite hero types of all time. The heroes whose greatest flaw is selflessness, to the point where it becomes a problem to their own health.
Well, I guess I'm within the middle ground where I guess I prefer characters that they aren't truly good in the sense that they don't do everything that's right, per se. I guess they would be a little bit more selfish within their actions,
or chaotic good.
Yes. Or more like a little bit more neutral.
Okay, do you have an example?
So there are a couple of things. So this is more of a protagonist sort of situation where I would actually say Shinji from Evangelion. So yes, he's not truly good per se. He's very selfish within his actions. And in the end, he does choose what many feel is the right choice. But along the way, He learns pretty much more about himself, his decisions, and how they impact everything within the world, and goes from there, really.
Yeah, Shinji kind of started off as the reluctant hero, just sort of being pressured into everything by his father.
Yeah, and he pretty much had to force himself to do everything. He pretty much didn't have any control over his own life, and then eventually did take some sort of control.
Oh yeah. I gotta be honest, Shinji as a character I didn't like in the initial anime. I actually liked him more in the movies, and I'm not sure why that is. Like,
Oh, you mean the rebuilds?
yeah. I
Okay.
think that
It could
something
ha-
about his character seemed accelerated to sort of skip some of the monotony of the almost run away stuff.
I think it has more to do with the creator's state of
Yeah.
mind at that
Yeah,
point.
Hideaki Anno, when he originally created Evangelion, was probably in one of the worst places in his life.
Oh.
So, yeah, Evangelion, the original series, plus End of Evangelion, totally reflects that. So, the rebuilds definitely have a different feel in comparison.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, I guess, that go through depression or understand depression on their own, they can actually relate with Shinji a lot more, which is unfortunately why a lot of people don't understand Shinji as a character. They call him a baby, among other things.
I never
And-
thought of Shinji as a baby per se. I mean, he's a kid who's being forced to fight in a war he doesn't want
Yeah.
to be part of. He has every right to not want to do this.
I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of people expected him to be the typical shonen mecha
Oh,
anime character, where they expected him to be, oh, I'm going to do everything right, defeat the enemy, etc., etc., etc.
yeah, fanboys.
Yeah.
Look, do you have a hero you want to talk about?
Basically, what I think makes a hero is probably in the middle ground between your opinions. Basically, someone who, like, no matter what side they're on, someone who accomplishes extraordinary tasks, who overcome their greatest flaws and uses those opportunities to inspire others. Did I make sense right there?
Yeah.
The main thing that struck with me was the inspire others parts. Like,
Yeah, so essentially almost like Luffy.
In all honesty, with that, I think I would like to talk about My Hero Academia, because biggest hero there is someone who mainly inspires others because of how incredible he is. All Might to the outside world is this man who never loses, who can take care of anything in one punch, and is just this pillar of justice that society kind of came to revolve around. And to us as a viewer, and to the main character of the show, Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku, he was exactly that, but he very soon came to realize that All Might was not exactly the person who he was, not in a bad way, but he was gravely injured, and it was taking him his entire being just to keep being a hero. In the first 2 episodes, you find out that he got into a very nasty fight a couple years prior to the events of the show, and he was pierced through the stomach and lost half his respiratory system. And despite those grave injuries, despite being in such immeasurable pain and having to cough up his own blood every 5 minutes, he was determined to save people. He just kind of looked up into the sky as he was explaining to Deku all this, that he would save people with a smile. And that in its own right, even that tiny little bit, is inspiring in my opinion.
I think the one thing I have to say about All Might, and it's not All Might in general, the way he's written is absolutely amazing. Because outwardly, he comes off as, the typical hero, that he's invincible, he can do anything, he'll save anybody who's in trouble. But not inside, but more so behind the scenes, he's a man with a ton of flaws. He has his own fears. And he's more of somebody that, yes, he wants to help everyone, but he's at a point where he's not sure if he can anymore and wants to allow somebody to take his place.
As someone who hasn't seen My Hero Academia yet, I know I'm a sin against nature. I'm sorry. I'll get to it soon. It sounds like what seems to me is that the writer kept in mind that All Might, before his powers, is a person first, and therefore he's human. He has fears, he has flaws, so he didn't write him as this perfection figure as a hero, which a hero isn't. A hero is human.
And I guess one thing that I can say about the writer himself is that he knows how to write a good hero, because they all have some sort of flaw, whether it's insecurities or just actual physical flaws, and he doesn't make it seem like they're completely useless because of this flaw. He allows these characters to thrive because of these flaws.
Case in point, Deku.
Yeah. And I forgot his name. He was the purple-haired guy within the torrent. Yes, he looked like he was going to be the worst asshole character in the universe. And he ended up being one of the coolest, nicest guys within the show.
Exactly.
With an actual good motive.
Should we go ahead and explain that?
It might be a bit spoilery, but actually, he has a power that can be used for evil, for sure. And so he actually wants to use that power itself for good. He wants to pretty much show others that, hey, I'm not going to be evil, and despite how I look and what abilities I have, I'm going to be a good person.
Yeah, and he just kind of grew to accept that people would see once they found out about his power that would totally be a villain's quirk, and they were just like, "Hey, you would make a great villain," and he's just like, "Yeah, I guess." And it's actually really super helpful hero quirk. It's just that society, or the prerequisites, for getting into this, hero community, essentially, it's all set against him. So no matter what, it seems like he just, by standards of society, cannot be a hero.
God, check out this show.
You definitely do.
I just finished wrapping up One Punch Man. Right, so I guess moving on from there.
So Storm, what is your opinion on a good hero?
I believe I mentioned my opinion towards the beginning.
Oh, yes.
A hero who does the right thing, a character who does the right thing and saves lives, essentially. Doesn't matter how large the scope is.
And to restate, mine would be someone who achieves great feats and inspires others.
Oh yeah.
And I just like plain out protagonists.
Well,
yeah!
You actually swayed me with yours. I'm actually adding your thesis on top of mine. I'm plagiarizing you now.
Yes.
A hero is someone who does good and inspires others.
Okay, I expect fees to come along with that.
Okay, the check's in the mail. Although I will say, there are some heroes that I just simply love who do not necessarily meet the hero's title. For my favorite example is Lena Inverse from Slayers. Has anyone seen that show?
I have not.
A long time ago, but...
The gist of it is, Lena Inverse is a master of dark magic, and time again, her selfish actions makes her the first responder to shenanigans that cause her to save the world time and time again. She's violent, she's selfish, she has so many negative character flaws it has been deemed illegal to be Lena Inverse. She blew
Oh
up.
no.
She blew up the holy capital of her world twice, and yet somehow, time and time again, she has to be the hero. And my favorite thing about it is she's so enjoyable with her character flaws.
Is she just happy to blow up the Capitol or something?
No, she does it completely by mistake.
Speaking of blowing up capitals, how about Anders?
I'm in the dark here.
Anders is from Dragon Age 2. He is a mage, and within Dragon Age 2, just for some context,
He blows the fuck out of the Chantry.
Well, yeah, he blows the fuck out of the Chantry, but that whole game revolves around Templars versus the mages, and basically the whole moral compass behind that. And Anders starts off as a protagonist, and then blows the hell up out of a Chantry, which is a church, pretty much.
And the Templars, for context, are pretty much the guys who police the mages.
Yeah.
Get to know they can shoot fire out of their fingers, so that needs to be watched.
Actually, on that topic, I was actually going to mention villains turned to the good side.
Is this Vegeta Talk 101?
Funny enough, I was thinking about Vegeta. I forgot his name, but he was from Digimon. I believe
Ken?
it was... Was it Ken? No.
Ken
There were
Shigure
two...
from season 2.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
That, basically, he was the main enemy for a very, very long time.
Yeah, the Digimon Emperor.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, well, I wouldn't say all of a sudden, after a lot of crap going on, all that fun stuff, he finally turns to, I guess, the good side. And I would say, sort of redeems himself in a way that's at least makes him a bit more acceptable.
Well, he did see the death of his partner, Wormmon.
Yeah, that's very
So
true.
he did do quite a lot of nasty shit, like whip Digimon, control them with mind-controlling rings of hate, and kidnapped Agumon.
But he's a good guy. But, yeah, I would say Vegeta as well, but that's sort of, I guess, questionable, because he's still kind of a jackass throughout the entire series.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Honestly, that's just more him keeping in character, which makes him a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Oh,
Yeah. So he's more of a anti-hero in that sense.
He won't blow up the Earth because his wife and kid are on it, but everyone else is fair game. He won't really care.
And I guess another sort of anti-hero I would say is Guts from Berserk. Because he does some questionable things, but he is still on the side of, I guess you would say, good, but yeah. He does...
I've only read the first 3 volumes, plus seen the 3 movie remakes for the Golden Age.
I've only seen the anime. And
I saw the 1997 anime.
And I've only heard about some dark stuff that happens in the manga, or rather, stuff from Guts' backstory from the manga.
Yeah,
Stuff that don't know if we can get into in this type of video.
Well, just let me tell you, no matter what anyone says, Griff did nothing wrong.
No.
I know I'm saying this in our hero session, but he's a pretty good hero in his own right, I would say.
We'll come back to this, I hope, in another video, strictly talking about Berserk.
Next Fandemonium session, 10 reasons why Griffith did nothing wrong.
No.
And 20 reasons why Rock is wrong.
Probably.
But on the topic of anti-heroes, I actually just remembered Revi from Black Lagoon. She's pretty much just a muck who's doing what she does for money. I haven't seen Black Lagoon in quite a while, though she did strike me as an anti-hero.
So,
Oh, sorry?
what does she do exactly during the series? If you can remember.
Well, she tried to kill a set of psychotic twins. She never actually managed to kill them, someone else beat her to it. But starting shooting up a bar, like a gunfight, she does not think twice about violence. She was grave robbing a sub filled with World War II corpses and didn't feel any remorse about it.
Well, when you put it like that, she sounds like a straight up villain.
Yeah, well, pretty much the premise of the show is it's set in this part of the world where everyone shits. She's just, I guess, to put her, she's just our protagonist. Well, Rock is, but she's... There's a character named Rock.
Okay.
You're the main character, Rock. This show's about you.
Nice.
Actually, when you mentioned her just murdering people, I guess, that reminds me of Deckard from Blade Runner. Who, okay, so the premise of Blade Runner that there are cyborgs or replicants, or sorry, androids, but they're called replicants. And pretty much with the replicants are outlawed, and there are Blade Runners that go and kill the replicants. Well, Deckard, yes, he's doing his job, but he doesn't take it into account that these are living, feeling beings that are actually biologically partially human, but doesn't really give a shit.
That's kind of debatable.
It is.
From the beginning, you got the sense that he really did not want to go back into the job because it seemed to scar him a little bit. And it's probably because they were so human and lifelike that he didn't want to do it.
Well, if we take the book it's based on into consideration, these things don't really have a sense of empathy. I mean, there's one point in the book where Android is cutting off the legs of a spider to see how many legs it can balance itself on. They don't really have a sense of concern for others.
Oh yeah, which is actually one. I forgot what it was called. There was a test that they do.
The void conflict test.
Yeah, there we go. There was that test where it would actually help them determine if somebody was a replicant or not.
Yeah, but it might be. It was theorized that it's possible for that test to deem incorrect answer depending on someone's mental health. Like someone with like suffering from a mental health issue could accidentally be terminated.
Yeah, which to me, in that respect, does actually make sense.
So with all this talk of heroes and anti-heroes, I'm actually curious about your guys' thoughts on this one. What are some bad examples of heroes that you don't like? Like heroes or protagonists you've seen in shows, or manga or such, or even video games, and you've just hated these heroes.
While I don't hate him, Goku.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay, can you elaborate?
Well, Goku is 100% selfish. He rarely does anything for others. Like if it's something for his close friends and family, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this. But in the end, a lot of conflict comes from him seeking out a better fight, particularly in Super, which is the current series.
Quite on the set,
that is airing in Japan and in the US, I guess. But Goku, like, as time progressed, he just got more and more I can't say self-absorbed, but
he became more focused on just getting stronger and more narrow-minded on his goal.
And I guess with a little bit more context, Japanese Goku is more so like that. English Goku, definitely, they try to create him more as an actual hero.
Yeah.
Would you say that wasn't an issue for him when he was a child? Because I don't think anyone can really hold that against him when he was Kid Goku, who was just growing up in the woods.
Yeah, he was really naive as a child, which makes sense as a child that, ran around in the woods half naked all the time.
I mean, he was essentially just a country bumpkin.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely more of an issue for his later incarnations in Z and Super.
Yeah, because he just did not develop at all. Except for the end of the Cell Saga, I would argue. because he did make a responsible choice by deciding to stay dead, since he made that observation that, hey, I seem to attract all these catastrophic events, so I'm just gonna step out of the light, let the world go on without me.
Oh yeah, and he lets Gohan on really become the new protagonist, which they soon fixed with Boo.
More Goku.
Yeah.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Japan just did not want Gohan to be the protagonist, so they brought back Goku.
That actually kind of pisses me off because they were developing Gohan so much and then they just throw him to the garbage.
Yeah. And that, I feel kind of bad for Toriyama because when he was writing the Buu saga, like, he wanted to end at the Cell, at the end of the Cell arc, but they wanted him to do another arc, and he was like, okay, but if I'm gonna do this, I'm doing it my way. And you kind of saw that with the tone that the overall saga just kind of brought. And people got so mad that Goku wasn't the protagonist that he was like, okay, I'll bring him back for this tournament arc. And then it's, okay, I'll bring him back for the Buu fight. And then it's just like, okay, he's just the main character now.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
And unfortunately, because people like Goku's character so much, I think that's probably one of the reasons why he wasn't allowed to develop outside of who he already was. If you take one step outside of that established character, people start to get kind of antsy.
That's the same reason why a lot of DC comic heroes don't really change all that much. I mean, when Batman died, people was saying, oh, it's only a matter of time before Bruce Wayne comes back. But I actually would have preferred if he stayed dead and Dick Grayson took over the mantle as Batman. Just because that seemed more fitting to that character's arc. Now Bruce Wayne's back and Dick Grayson is just right back where he belonged. Where he was before.
Right.
Which I feel is unfortunate. We could have had an actual evolution in the comics. And a new generation of readers growing up believing Dick Grayson is the Batman.
But alas, that time will probably never come.
Yeah, because change is scary. But there is one or two heroes that I just sort of, well, not really heroes, but protagonists that shows try to make me like, but I hated them so much. And the number one I have to mention for my own sanity is Miharu from Nabari no O, who, when I first saw the trailer for Nabari no O, it seemed like a comedy, because the premise of Nabari no O is Miharu has the super powerful, dangerous ninja technique sealed inside of him. Hello, Naruto. And he doesn't give a shit about it. He doesn't care at all. And I thought that was going to be a fun little foil for some comedy. Turns out the show was played straight, and his main character trait is apathy. Which makes me personally, it's very hard for me to like a character who's apathetic.
Yeah, because by nature, they don't really care about anything.
Yeah, if they don't give a shit about the events going on, why should I? I went to this in the villains episode, and it translates to heroes here. If this character isn't invested in the goings-on around him, I'm not going to give a shit. I mean, he changes sides twice. I'm just like, okay, he's doing this now. I don't care.
So what, he's chaotic neutral?
Not even chaotic. He's just the color gray. There are few points in the show where he shows actual emotion, but 2 out of 3 of those times, it's to manipulate others using guilt tactics. And that other time, I can't discern if it's genuine or a ploy, which shouldn't even be a question. Because you need to make me give a shit about your show, otherwise I'm not gonna watch it.
Yeah, that's kind of a fatal flaw. How about you, Nick?
I really don't have much else to say in that regard.
Then talk about why you hate Griffith so much.
Because he's an asshole.
End of story.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah,
He
no.
murdered the entire band of the Hawk.
Well, with the exception of 2 people, but...
I mean, he tried to murder them.
Well,
it was the intent.
1 3/4. Gus kind of left an arm behind.
Yeah, and an eyeball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have a hero or protagonist. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't. So yeah, other than Griffith, I can't really think of anybody else.
So then, should we sort of change gears right now?
Oh yeah.
Maybe talk about heroes, like side heroes, sidekicks. Not even sidekicks.
Supporting characters.
Just like, I'm sorry, yeah, because I actually kind of wanted to talk about Moomin Rider from One Punch Man.
Oh.
Because, so, for context, the world that One Punch Man is set in is just one where it's just kind of conglomerated, just one big mass of city. Pretty much everyone's expendable, and there are giant monsters just wrecking stuff everywhere. And there came to be this organization called the Hero Society that kind of gathered local heroes, or just any hero, to try to combat these monsters that were destroying everything. And not every hero is the same. There's going to be weaker heroes, and Moomin Rider happens to be the strongest of these weaker heroes. There are classes C through A, I believe.
Yeah. Well, S.
Yeah. Is it S?
Yeah. There's the A team, B team, C team, and the S class. That the C class heroes have to at least do something hero related, save a kid from a tree, save someone, stop a criminal, at least once a week to keep their hero status.
Basically, they are around to serve the community first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because they can't really do anything else. And Moomin Rider happens to be the rank 1 of that class. And he actually reminds me a lot of All Might in that even when he can't do anything, he still tries his best to do something. Because he does most of his work, like you said, helping kids, saving kittens from trees. But if a couple of monsters show up and no one's around, he'll try to take care of it. He'll almost die pretty much every single time he goes up against one, but he, at the very least, does not want to stand idly by while people get hurt. And it makes him very endearing because he knows he can't do anything. But him just doing his best is something that's inspiring. It inspires the people around him even when the situation's very bleak.
But yeah, I saw Moomin Rider in One Punch Man. I was really intrigued by him, and I wasn't disappointed by his fight with the Sea King. I thought that was a really good episode.
Yeah, that part of the episode was more driven by the emotional aspect.
Oh yeah. It was nice to see that he wouldn't give up because he was the last line of defense for these people who were about to become fish food, and even after Saitama showed up to kill the freaking thing, his role wasn't over just because Saitama was there. He went on to be the only guy who sort of appreciated Saitama's intervention in that fight.
Right.
Because Saitama doesn't really get a lot of credit for his heroic deeds, so seeing one person thank him for it was very nice, even at that, but still.
That's actually a pretty good observation. because you can take it as he's the hero of the people, and he's the hero of the protagonist at the same time, but he's also kind of our hero, because as a viewer you kind of get sick of Saitama not getting his credit, and sometimes even worse, people will call him a fake, because what he does is pretty impossible, so they just assume that he didn't do anything. And just seeing Moomin Rider go up to him and say, hey, you really saved me and I really appreciate you, that's something, he gives a little bit something to the viewer at that moment, which again, it makes him fairly endearing.
Oh yeah, like even just the smallest bit of appreciation goes a long way. Even in real life, just having your boss come down and say, hey, good work today, you're killing it, can liven up someone's day. That's worked for me.
Well, today my boss told me he really likes my attitude towards things, and that made me feel real good, so...
Yeah. Sometimes it's the small things that can get us through. But on the topic of, like, the side heroes, Naki, are there any supporting hero protagonist thingamoozits you want to talk about while I dig around my brain?
So I could literally talk about everybody in Luffy's crew, but I guess I'll specifically go after Usopp, I guess.
Oh.
Because I feel like out of pretty much anybody in the Straw Hats, that even though he's still kind of a bitch, I feel like he's gone the furthest in regards to what he can and can't do, how he supports Luffy and all of this. And, well, yes, he's a coward and all of that. Especially after the time skip, he becomes a much more well-rounded character. He actually can show off his talents a whole lot more as, I guess I would call him a ranger. I don't. Oh,
Sniper?
What is this?
A gunman?
Sniper. There you go. So, as a sniper, he shows off his abilities a whole lot more as a sniper. Which, I guess this progression begins at around... What is it? Sorry, I forgot what it was. I don't remember arc names right now.
When they're on the Island of the Giants?
No. After that, when they're trying to get Robin back.
Oh, Ennie's Lobby.
Impledown?
Yes,
Oh, Ennie's Lobby.
yes. Ennie's Lobby. That's where he starts to show his true colors, especially when Luffy gets injured and he's trying his best to actually help him. Help him to get to safety. And actually, you know what? Screw that. Even before that, with Water 7.
Oh yeah, when Luffy and Usopp were fighting, I was actually about to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, they were fighting, and he totally wanted to get back on the crew. Regardless of, that fart. Regardless of, that huge argument that they had and everything. And he still showed that he cared.
I would actually, Usopp's character development in One Piece is even more impressive when you think about when he joined the crew, he didn't really have a role. They only decided he'd become the gunner towards the time they got Sanji.
Yeah, he was pretty much cannon fodder and just comic relief in the beginning.
Yeah, he really didn't have anything going for him.
Yeah. And now he's actually somebody that I can handle, seeing on screen, seeing what he can do, and he becomes, I wouldn't say impressive, but he's definitely, he's definitely worthwhile.
He's become one of my favorite characters, definitely.
Yeah, because I could talk about my favorite characters, but Usopp was definitely the one that has changed the most. Because I could say, oh, I love Frankie, but, he's been the same since they introduced him. He's the pervert cyborg, and that's really all he has going to him in regards to character development at the moment.
Yeah, Usopp's interesting because he overcame his challenges.
Yeah, because everybody else, unfortunately, is fairly overpowered.
Yeah.
Straw Hat crew is basically just a bunch of Marisus.
With the exception of Usopp. And I guess Chopper, too.
Yeah. Chopper is like the sweetest thing on the planet. Most of the time.
Most of the time.
But if we're taking character development into consideration, I guess I'll have to say my favorite supporting hero would have to be Yaiko Miyoji from Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh yeah.
You don't really get this a lot in the anime, but in the manga, Yaiko develops a whole lot, from young pickpocket street punk to Karu's only students, and eventually going on to fight alongside everyone at in Kyoto to fight Shishio's men. But if you read the manga, it goes even further than that. During the Jinchu arc, Yaiko begs Karu to teach him the ultimate technique of the Kamiya Kashin style, and not only does he learn the basics of it, but he masters it and makes it his own technique. Eventually, for quick context, the Kamiya Kashin's ultimate technique is a way to catch a blade with the back of your knuckles by slamming your two hands together. Yaiko took this technique, and in his he's now 15, 16, he develops a way to catch a sword with his two knuckles, and just pulls the sword out from his enemy's hands. But even in the Jinchu arc itself, there was a time where Kenshin becomes MIA. He sort of is in a deep depression for reasons of the story, and Yaiko actually rises up and sort of takes over the mantle of the main hero while everyone else is away. Sanosuke goes off on his own for his own story arc. Saito's off doing his own thing. Kenshin's slumming it with a bunch of bums. Yaiko's the only one to take up the mantle and continue the story, because his entire story arc is he's been chasing the backs of the two men he admired the most, only to finally stand side by side with them in the finale of the story. And watching Rurouni Kenshin as a kid, I hated Yaiko because he was just some annoying punk. But reading the series again as an adult, he became one of my favorite characters of the story because of how much he grew. Because everyone in Rurouni Kenshin grows and changes, but not as much as Yaiko.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point of discussion too. The heroes that are inspired by the other heroes in the story.
Now, Luffy inspires a whole lot of people, so does Kenshin, All Might, Saitama to some extent.
I always find it so funny that, so many people are inspired by Luffy, especially some of the fucking Marines.
Well, context-wise, from the viewer's perspective, the Marines most of the time are the antagonistic force. I mean, just look at Enies Lobby.
Yeah, or Marineford.
Comparatively, the pirates are the bad guy, are the good guys.
Yeah, which I find funny because I think about it and I'm like, am I watching the bad guys?
I would actually say no. There's not a lot of times where Luffy and the guys go out plundering villages and looking for treasure. They just sort of go around looking for adventure.
Yeah,
are
in
they
Worlds
pirates?
By definition, they are, because they are not law-abiding citizens in the strictest definition. I mean, if they were truly pirates, Zoro wouldn't pay for the swords he has. Nami wouldn't pay for anything.
She pretty much already doesn't, though.
Fair point.
She gets all the money and bums off everyone else at the same time.
Pretty much.
She just winks at people and then people fawn over her. And her impractical proportions.
Or she screams at them until they give her shit.
So, yeah. We'll call it there for this discussion. Thank you guys so much for coming out to help me with this episode.
It's not a problem.
Well, that's it for this episode. I really hope you guys had fun. If you, the viewer, have any thoughts of what we should talk about next, leave a comment down below and tell us what are some of your favorite heroes. And And if you like, go on over to our Patreon to help support us. You can do anything from $1 to, dare I say, $2. I know.
You'd be our heroes for sure if you did that.
Ah, I see we did that. Had it back in the theme of this episode.
Unless your name is Griffith.
Especially if you're Griffith. Don't listen to her.
Well, that's it for now. Talk to you later. Bye.